I know you had said that you told Dan that you weren't going to start the radio station unless he was the afternoon host for you. How did you? Was it hard to convince him to become a sports radio host?
No, Dan loves an underdog. We were an underdog. We were a startup radio station going up against a heritage station in 560 WQAM. I worked at QAM. I sat there saying to myself, because every market started popping up, or major markets, more than one sports radio station. So when I was working there, it was old. It was Hank Goldberg. It was Jim Mandich. Great guys, great host. But it was old. I was like, there has to be a younger alternative here in Miami, a more hipper, younger alternative in Miami. So when I was producing Hank Goldberg's show as the executive producer of his show, he had spent like a good year, and it was like one of his last years, just tearing Le Batard apart on a daily basis. Anything he wrote, even if Hank agreed with him, he would find a way to disagree. And I said, if anyone could drive Hank Goldberg this crazy, that person needs to be on the air opposite of Hank Goldberg. And so I called Dan as I was putting this thing together, and I told him I was starting a station. And I said, I want you in afternoon drives. Otherwise, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And so Dan was intrigued by it. Obviously, he took the job. He loved going against Hank. And Dan loves being a part of an underdog. Like, he loves being a part of something like that. And we were the underdog. You had the GM calling, saying we were doing sissy boy radio. And then, a year and a half later, we had higher ratings than any show in the history of the market. And so, and we enjoyed that. We took a great amount of pride in that. He did call me a week before the station started. I was doing middays, and he was going to be doing afternoons. And he said, I can't do the show by myself. And I said, well, who do you want me to get? And he at the time, he told me Boog Shambi. Now, Boog, who's the voice of the Cubs now, he was doing a talk show, or he was doing work for the Marlins, who are on 560. So he could not come over to 790 the ticket. So I said, all right, well, I'll call Boog. He said, I already spoke to Boog. He can't do it. But Boog suggested I do it with you. And I said, well, I'm doing middays. He said, well, not anymore. You're doing the afternoons with me unless you want me to not take the job. And so, I had to hire a new midday show because, again, I wasn't starting the station without Dan. If that meant I have to sit in with Dan, then I had to sit in with Dan. Now, it is, in hindsight, at the time I was upset because, Brandon, I'm telling you, I wanted my own midday show. Okay? So I was upset at the time. But it turns out to be the greatest call I've ever gotten. I mean, I'm sitting here 20 years later. I'm talking to you. They're offering me WFAM program director jobs. Like, it was the best call I ever got. And it's been as fun at 20 years as anyone could imagine.